Louisiana, a place where the murky water holds secrets, where oak trees hang heavy with moss and with memory, where the veil between the past and the present feels thinner than anywhere else in America. It's more than just a setting. Louisiana is alive, it breathes. This episode, we're going to walk through 3 of its legends: dark, creepy, mysterious. A servant girl who sought love but found only death. A swamp creature that tears through the silence like a fever dream. And a town swallowed by water, just as a dying woman said it would be. These aren't just tales whispered over the campfire. They are supposedly true, scary stories rooted in pain, in folklore, and in the bones of the bayou. I'm Drifter Voyages, and this is the 50th Room Podcast.
Shadows dance on the bayou ground. Whispers rise where no one's around. Moonlight shivers on the blackened tide. Something's waiting in the moss to hide. Feel the drum beat under your skin. The spirits call you to let them in. Down in the swamp where chills reside. The voodoo whispers twist the night wide.
St. Francisville, Louisiana, a place where the past wraps itself around you like a thick Spanish moss hanging from ancient oaks. Here, history doesn't feel distant. It breathes right beside you. And at that very heart of this living memory stands the Myrtles Plantation, a grand antebellum mansion built in 1796. It is called, by some, one of the most haunted homes in America. And of all its restless spirits, one name surfaces again and again: Chloe. Chloe was an enslaved woman, young, intelligent, and unusually privileged by the cruel standards of her time. Unlike many forced to labor under the punishing Louisiana sun, Chloe worked within the main house, serving with the Woodruff family directly. She belonged to Judge Clark Woodruff, a man of influence, power, and by many accounts, ruthless temperament. Some versions of Chloe's story whisper that she became the judge's unwilling mistress, a coerced relationship cloaked in silence and survival. Others say she simply overheard something she should not have. Perhaps private illegal dealings, scandals, or plans that could damage the judge's ambitions. Whatever the truth, Chloe's fate was sealed the day she was caught listening at a keyhole. As punishment, Woodruff ordered her ears severed, a brutal, disfiguring act meant not just to punish, but also to shame. Afterward, Chloe concealed her wound with a green turban, which she was said to wear every moment of every day, a constant reminder of her suffering. And from that moment, by all accounts, something inside Chloe must have broke. Her smile faded, her voice softened into a near silence, and the house itself seemed to notice the change. Some wounds heal, others fester and grow. According to the legend, Chloe's fate turned from tragedy to horror. Desperate to regain favor with the Woodruff family, or perhaps burning with hidden rage, Chloe devised a plan. She baked a birthday cake for the judge's 2 young daughters, mixing crushed oleander leaves into the batter. Oleander, beautiful, fragrant, and fatally toxic. A few bites would be enough. The children ate the cake. So did their mother, Sarah Woodruff. All 3 fell violently ill, writhing in agony. By the end of the night, they were dead. Panicked and grief-stricken, the other enslaved people on the plantation knew what would follow. Brutal retaliation, indiscriminate and bloody. To protect themselves, they turned on Chloe. She was dragged from her hiding place and hung from a tree on the grounds, some say near the kitchen courtyard. Her body was later tossed into the nearby Mississippi River, a cruel attempt to erase her from the land. But a lot of people think that Chloe never left. Over the centuries, countless visitors and caretakers of Myrtle's plantation have reported encounters with a woman in a green turban. Things like shadowy glimpses drifting past second-story windows where no living soul should be. Or how about in photographs capturing her figure in places where no one stood, a faint, blurred outline draped in flowing cloth. Or guests waking in the dead of night to find a figure at the foot of their bed, silent, unmoving, who vanishes when the lights are flicked on. One of the most unsettling focal points is the hallway mirror near the main entrance. The mirror, according to legend, was improperly covered during the period of mourning following the death of Sarah Woodruff and her children. In many Southern traditions, mirrors are covered to prevent spirits from becoming trapped. Here, it is said Chloe's spirit, and perhaps others, became bound within the glass. Guests report seeing handprints, faces, and fleeting shadows in the mirror's surface, even when the house stands empty. A former caretaker, a man who lived on the grounds for nearly a decade, stated this: "At night, sometimes I'd hear crying, low and steady, like someone mourning deep down where words can't reach. I'd go into the parlor and the rocking chair by the fireplace would be moving, slowly, back and forth. No windows were open, no draft, just moving, like someone was rocking, trying to comfort themselves." The man stated he stopped trying to explain it. After a while, "You just accept it," he said. Chloe's story is a tapestry of sorrow, guilt, injustice, and rage, stitched into the very walls of the Myrtle's plantation. Her spirit, whether born of legend or real suffering, reminds us that violence leaves echoes. It imprints itself on the very land beneath our feet. That injustice poisons more than just the living. It stains the very ground. And the Myrtle's plantation, stately, silent, magnificent, seems to remember. Its floorboards groan not only under the weight of visitors, but under the heavy memories it can't let go. If you visit the Myrtle's plantation, be respectful. Speak softly. Walk gently. And if you hear humming behind you, a low, mournful tune, like a lullaby half remembered from a distant time, don't turn around. Keep walking forward. When it comes to the paranormal, some things cry, some things walk, and others hunt. There is a legend in Cajun country, a creature born of bloodlines and curses. And when the moon is right, it comes out of the water.
The ancient time. Feel the drum beat under your skin. The spirits call you to let them in. Down in the swamp where chills reside. The voodoo whispers twist the night wide.
The Rougarou, a name spoken in warning, in hush, in fear. It slithers between legends and nightmares across the dark waters of southern Louisiana. A creature of tooth, claw, and curse. Some call it a werewolf, others something far worse. A man-turned monster, part beast, part punishment. And while no two stories sound exactly alike, they all end the same way. In screaming. The roots of the Rougarou legend stretch deep into tangled soil. An old tale, stitched together from many places and fears. The Cajun people, descendants of French settlers expelled from Nova Scotia, carried with them the loup-garou myths of Europe. Tales of cursed souls who turned into wolves under the cursed moon. In the New World, this legend mixed with Catholic warnings about the dangers of breaking sacred oaths. And it mixed with the primordial fear of the swamps. Vast, endless, and unknowable. In some tellings, the Rougarou is God's punishment. Break Lent, the 40 days of fasting and sacrifice before Easter, and the Rougarou will find you. Commit murder or betrayal, and the Rougarou will mark you, hunting you through the misty bayous until you pay in blood. In other versions, it is a curse passed through violence. If the Rougarou draws your blood, even a single drop, the curse passes to you. For 101 nights you become the beast, doomed to stalk the darkness, half aware and half lost. After the 101st night, the curse moves on to another victim, leaving you changed, but free, or so the story says. The rules vary from village to village, from porch to porch, but one thing remains constant. The Rougarou is no ordinary monster. It is a punishment wearing a human face. It is not the swamp you should fear, but what walks inside it. One of the most chilling written records comes from a man by the name of Waukese Thibodeau, a trapper who grew up deep in the marshes outside New Liberia. After his mysterious disappearance in 1974, his battered journal was found hidden under a loose floorboard in his cabin. The last entry read as follows: "There's something in the cane. It walks when it shouldn't. When I sleep, I hear it breathing under the floorboards. I think it knows my name." Waukese's body was never found. Only deep claw marks on the outside walls of his house, and a trail of broken reeds leading into the endless swamp. Even today, stories bubble up from the bayou like methane from rotting water. In 1993, two teenagers camping near Houma fled their shredded tent after spotting what they described as a wolf on two legs with glowing red eyes and arms that dragged almost to the ground. One boy still bears 3 jagged scars across his back. Marks, he claims, are not from any animal that belongs here. Hunters speak of seeing a hulking figure standing upright among the cypress trees, then disappearing in an impossible lunge into the water. Foul odors, sulfur, and decayed meat are often smelled seconds before hearing a heavy, unnatural splash nearby. One hunter simply called it a shadow wearing skin. Local search and rescue teams sometimes report finding signs of panicked flight. Tents slashed open from the outside. Trails of broken branches leading into the thickest parts of the swamp, and then simply stopping, as if the person had been swallowed by the night. Among the old families of the bayou, quiet traditions still persist. Garlic cloves strung along doorways. Vivi symbols, sacred drawings etched into the dirt at the threshold, calling upon spiritual protection. And crosses of woven cane hung above cribs and on front doors. Some say the Rougarou hates the signs of crosses. Others say it hates being named aloud. So when the sun dips down low over the marsh and the mist creeps in, the elders light their candles and they say their prayers, not because they believe in fairy tales, but because they know deep down that some stories were born from the truth. The Rougarou may not be real to everyone, but in the still, suffocating darkness of the swamp, where the only sound is the beat of your own terrified heart, it doesn't matter what you believe. It only matters what's waiting. Yes, the bayou holds a ton of stories. Of course, the land is old. So many old traditions, so many old cultures. But sometimes the bayou swallows towns whole.
Your way back home. Feel the drum beat under your skin. The spirits call you to let 'em in.
Frenier, Louisiana, once a quiet village perched at the edge of the Lake Pontchartrain, a patchwork of sugarcane fields, wooden houses, and a small, tight-knit church community. Life here was slow, predictable even, until the day Julia Brown sang her final song. Julia Brown was no ordinary woman, a root worker skilled in the ancient art of herbal healing, folk medicine, and spiritual protection. She served the people of Frenier for years. She delivered babies with practiced hands. She cured fevers and infections with poultices made from marsh herbs and whispered prayers. And she crafted charms to ward off evil and sometimes to invite it in. At first, the villagers revered her, but as time passed and Julia's knowledge deepened, reverence turned to fear. Superstitious whispers began to wind their way through Frenier's streets. That Julia's healing came at a price. That her blessings would curdle into curses. That she knew too much of what lived between the water and the woods. Her reputation became a double-edged sword, protector and threat alike. As resentment festered, people grew weary, keeping their distance from the woman who seemed too close to the swamp and too close to things unseen. In the final years of her life, Julia Brown became a ghost while still breathing. She would sit on her creaky porch, gently rocking, her eyes far away, singing a single chilling refrain. One day I'm gonna die and take the whole town with me. Over and over again, soft at first, then louder like a warning no one wanted to hear. The village shook their heads, dismissed her as mad. No one listened until September 29th, 1915. On September 29th, 1915, Julia Brown passed away. That very evening, as her body was prepared for burial, the skies darkened with unnatural speed. The winds roared from the Gulf, shrieking through the cypress trees at over 120 miles per hour. The hurricane, later ranked among the deadliest to ever strike Louisiana, crushed Frenier beneath its fury. Houses shattered like kindling. The lake surged inland, swallowing streets, fields, and families, and dozens perished. Whole lineages wiped from existence in a single night. Those who survived spoke to the waters rising faster than rain could fall, and of walls torn away while they prayed inside. When dawn finally broke, the village was gone, flattened and drowned. All that remained standing was the small church where a handful of survivors had huddled in terrified fear. The rest, homes, shops, livelihoods, were swept away into the lake. The storm came with Julia's death, and with it, her prophecy. Julia not just predicted the fall of Frenier, she had become its storm. Today, nothing but swamp and skeletal remains mark where Frenier once stood. Yet stories persist, growing, if anything, stronger over the decades. Boat captains speak of hearing a woman's voice singing across the lake when the fog creeps in. An eerie, lilting song that carries over the water, though no living soul can be seen. Fishermen report glimpses of a woman dressed in black, standing knee-deep in the murky shallows, her mouth moving as if singing, her eyes tightly shut. When they approach, she vanishes, leaving only the ripples of her absence. One diver, exploring the old sunken foundations, claimed to feel hands brushing his ankles from below. Though his sonar registered no life nearby, he surfaced in a panic and refused to return. Words from a local historian, a woman whose family roots trace back to those who survived the storm, stated this: "We don't talk about Julia, not out loud, not even now. She wasn't evil, just angry. You don't ignore a woman who speaks with the swamp. That's not just old talk, that's respect." In this part of Louisiana, the dead are closer than you think, and some names are still spoken in careful whispers, lest they hear and potentially answer. Julia Brown's story is one of power left unchecked and fear left unspoken. She was a woman caught between reverence and resentment, a healer and an outcast, a protector and a threat. When she sang her warning, it wasn't prophecy, it was a promise. In places like Fernier, the land itself remembers, and sometimes it sings back. If you find yourself drifting across Lake Pontchartrain, if a mist rolls in thicker than it should, if you hear a low, mournful voice singing from somewhere just out of sight, don't call out, don't ask questions, and don't answer. Just listen and leave. And there you have it, 3 tales from the deep souls of the South. A servant wronged and bound in sorrow, a beast born of curse and fear, and a town dragged into the water by a dying woman's promise. In Louisiana, stories don't end. They echo in the rain, in the bayou, and in the quiet before the dawn. If these stories stayed with you, share the episode. Leave a review, it helps more than you know. And send in your own encounters. I love reading your stories. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind. And remember, some stories rise like the mist, meant to be told, meant to be shared. And some stay below the murky waters, meant to be hidden and never meant to be found.